All right, I am foregoing the music and all of that since we are pressed for time. But I did want to show off real quick before I bring the panel in. I showed last time when we did the Invisible Man. This was I showed my universe collection, the Legacy collection, and again, this came out right about the time that Van Helsing came out. With that Hugh Jackman film and everything like that. So pardon me as I transform into rewatch mode here. But there we go. All right, so Nerdy Prof at the helm. Yeah, it's really cool. This is the Frankenstein one. I love the box, how it's a frame, You see that there? And it includes everything Frankenstein. So disc 1 is Frankenstein. Of course, a bunch of special features for it. Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, House of Frankenstein. All of them. It's just great. And again, it doesn't have the Abbott and Costello because that's its own set. That's its own series and everything like that. So very cool. I just wanted to show that off before I swing back into Prof Wolf mode here and then bring in our panel. So here we have with me as always is my trusty TA Big Al. Say hi, Al.
You actually brought in Troy, but hi, Al.
Al is always here first. Hang on. All right. Say hi,
How
Al.
dare you?
Wow. Oh, at least I didn't mute the mic this time. Okay, I'm coming off of a weekend.
It's alive, but you ruined it. I just did.
Go ahead and give it to us anyway.
Hi,
Say
Al.
hi, Al. Oh, okay. That wasn't very. Yeah, I've offended you. I have to earn back your. Well. Welcome, sir. I'll show off your awesome avatar there again. All right, that's starting to sound a little weird. You can stop that now. And with us is also our Klingon cleric himself, Mr. Troy Pacelli. Welcome, Troy. This time you can go ahead and say hi.
Yep.
Very cool.
And I'm planning to do that for every
Frankenstein?
single one of your rewatches this season.
Actually, it sounded like
awesome.
It sounded like the monster,
awesome.
and then suddenly became a little Klingon-ish.
Well, I can't keep the Klingon out. I just can't. I do my best, but
exactly. Well, of course, we're not complete yet until we bring in the lovely Miss Nanette from Netter's Network. Welcome,
Unpleasant
Nanette.
dreams.
Oh, excellent!
Oh, nice. Even sound a little bit like her there. That's perfect. Very good. Very well. I am queuing up my copy here.
So you showed the Legacy collection. That's the version I'm watching too. Bought it off of Fan Man, actually.
Cool.
He was getting rid of.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, he went Blu-ray.
I guess he went Blu-ray, didn't he?
Even though I can do Blu-ray, I for the most part prefer regular DVDs. I mean, most. I'm sorry, I won't get into it, but Blu-rays are not as high definition in most cases as most people believe. So that's not worth it. Exactly.
Especially for these classic films where it just wasn't shot like that. It wasn't shot to be shown in that.
They were filmed on film, and film can be translated directly to very high definition. Unfortunately, Blu-ray does not take advantage of that. I could do a whole video about that myself, and that's what upsets me. I am not going to spend the extra money for Blu-rays that aren't the high definition that they ought to be.
They really should. They really should do a 4K restoration.
Yes.
But, they did with Legend of Boggy Creek, and it's beautiful.
You're kidding, really?
Yeah, Legend of Boggy Creek did it a full 4K
There is no
restoration
excuse that
of it.
these iconic Universal monsters haven't gotten that treatment. You're absolutely right, Al.
Oh, hang on. Sound Engraver in the chat tells me I have a delay. And Wolf Town Media notices it too. So apparently you guys are talking over me because of the delay. So let me pop out for a second while you guys talk more about that stuff. And I'm going to give it a second. I'm going to refresh.
Yeah, they would make so much money if they did the 4K restoration in full, whatever form would be the current form at the time when they finally get around doing
And
it.
you know, I want to give them
or something else.
I want to give them the credit of business acumen that their intent is to, you know, make more money by re-releasing it and doing that. But I don't think they're even intelligent enough to be thinking along those lines. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know. I think it all depends on rights too. Who has the rights to do what, and with what I do, I think all the copyrights end in 2027, I believe.
Oh, and becomes public domain?
It goes public domain. One thing I know, the Frankenstein makeup appearance, which is a copyrighted look by Universal.
Yes, it is.
Is Universal's until 2026. And then it goes out. Now, of course, 2027, things could change. If something goes,
God, I hope not.
They could always lose the copyright if they have it already, kind of thing.
Let me try. I was going to wait for Al to finish a thought, but we'll be here for a while, so let me go ahead and.
You know what? Every time I can't talk and give a. I mean, please.
Yeah, no, I was in there too, and I'll keep it going too because this is a topic I really am interested in.
Well, what I wanted to say to the
I just wanted to jump in. Okay. I want to jump in real quick to make sure the delay's not anywhere. They're listening for the delay right now since I came back in, so I just want to make sure that's not there. But then please, by all means, finish the conversation.
Yeah, and we need the stream to tell us because we don't hear that delay because we're hearing you through StreamYard.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Prof, I did want to mention that when you were showing your Universal Monsters movies, it kind of looked like it was in 3D. It had a really cool effect, at least on my computer.
Yeah, because it's got that screen in front of it and everything. Yeah, it's really cool.
They're glow in the dark, aren't they?
I think so.
Oh, cool.
Maybe
I know there's an edition somewhere that came with glow in the dark covers.
And
cool,
Professor, if you don't mind, I did want to go back because there was something I wanted to say to Al about the topic he was talking about.
Yeah, please. One thing real quick, just because this is a perfect example. All right, they say I sound good, so that's good. Thank you. You sounded great. Everything's Paladin Demo. Appreciate that. Everybody, I'm at the 0 mark on the Legacy Collection. So it's after the modern day Universal logo has played, and I'm at the 0 mark right before the black and white and the man steps out on the stage. Just want everybody to be able to cue that up while you finish your conversation there.
And if you're on the Internet if you're watching on the Internet Archive or have that version, there is no logo. It literally starts with the guy coming out.
Okay, so go ahead, Troy.
But what I wanted to say about rights is, so here I am with my Mego icon there for the recent Mego re-release of the iconic monsters that they're doing, and I'm not entirely. I don't have all the inside scoop from Marty Abrams and the guys over at Mego, but I do know that in order to get around rights issues related to these iconic Universal monsters, in some cases they went directly to the estates. In this case, the estate of Boris Karloff, and in the case of Dracula, they went to Boris Karloff. Bela Lugosi, and asked, "Can we use their likenesses?" So I don't know. I think there's some gray area there with the, this image of the creature.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge because Universal owns the overall, but if you want it to look like Karloff, you kind of have to go through the Karloff estate.
Is that what it is? The Karloff estate. Okay, so that's how they did it.
Well, if you think about it, the Frankensteins, there's four different actors played the Frankenstein monster in Universal, and Dracula there were 3 that played Dracula. Well,
oh my gosh, you're right. Yes,
four if you count the Spanish version.
Yeah. Right.
So there's a lot of Draculas out there. You just it's just that Bella is so
iconic, right?
And he's so ensconced in the public zeitgeist. Am I using
exactly right.
Word for it? That people, you see Carradine, who was a fine Dracula. Great, in fact, looks more like Dracula in the book
Yes, I agree with you.
than Bella does.
I couldn't buy him myself, but
See, the thing is, Bella's just so ingrained.
Yeah.
Bella's become the public conscience.
I mean,
version
Prof,
of
do a Google search to look for that classic painting of Vlad Tepes III.
yeah,
And
you're
then
right.
compare that to Carradine, and you go, "Oh yeah, I can see it." But
Sure.
but when you think movie version, you think Bela Lugosi.
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
because he did such a fine. I mean, Lugosi did a fine job.
That
And
accent.
we're
Accent.
talking-
Oh my gosh.
we're talking Lugosi. Karloff has Lugosi to thank for becoming Frankenstein because
You're right.
Lugosi was attached.
Yeah,
Was
he
going
turned
to
it down.
be the creature, and then the script was he was like, I came here to be an actor, not a scarecrow. Was what he said.
Ooh, yeah. I guess I can see that.
And so
And then, of course, he
Karloff-
tried to play the creature in Wolfman meets Frankenstein, right?
yeah, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. He played Frankenstein finally, and it's just not, it's just not the same. The only
Played
other
amazing Igor.
oh god, he's fantastic.
The son of
He's
Frankenstein.
fantastic as that. He's
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely.
That is probably a role that people don't really think of him as, but
Yeah, he was
Karloff
iconic.
is
yeah,
taking me
son
to
of,
task for my
son of
pronunciation.
Son of Frankenstein is Bela Lugosi just does a tour de force in that.
Yeah. People in the chat are like, why are we talking about Dracula?
Lee Karloff is
Well,
calling
we're
me to
talking
task
Universal.
on my pronunciation of Vlad's name. Spidey rules. I never drink wine. In my case, I'm drinking gin and tonic. You can probably hear it from my pronunciation.
But if people are listening, it all comes back. It all goes back to Frankenstein,
And
who
Karloff,
of course is not the monster.
Keep in mind that the Universal monsters were the original shared universe, right?
Yeah,
they
exactly.
they had that shared universe thing down long before Marvel, long before they were trying to do a dark universe,
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, we're all obviously really we all love the Universal
Yes.
Monsters here, and of course runs the iconic iconic Universal Monsters Facebook page. Just want to shout that out at the beginning.
Thank you.
Facebook.com/iconic Universal Monsters.
I'll
And
drop that. Don't worry.
oh, thanks. Yeah, so we're all really big into it, and you'll hear us geeking out a lot, and we probably will cross over to some of the other movies occasionally in our talks, but we'll try and keep it centered on Frankie.
Keep
Yeah,
it
Tom's-
well,
yeah.
they share a lot of the same actors too. So
Yeah.
Tom's-
Oh, and I will. Oh, sorry. Go, Nanette?
Tom Spiegel said he's getting some chips and something not to start without him. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick.
He said he's getting chips or something.
Yeah, he goes, I'm getting like jerky and chips. Don't start without me. So I figured I'd
Oh, okay.
throw that in there real quick.
Okay. Well, I will say that remind me at the end of the movie, because these Universal movies are short too, so we have time to vamp at the beginning and vamp at the end of something like that. But remind me, I do have an art book. Is it Rick Frayne is his name, I think? Really great artist who does some amazing art, and I want to show off a few of his collections of even Frankenstein and Karloff and stuff like that at the end after we so I'll go back on camera to show that.
yeah, that name sounds. Yeah, I think I might have come across him.
Yeah, I had him sign the book and everything. I met him at a Chiller Theater Con in New Jersey.
Oh, sweet.
Really cool. Yeah, great
Yeah,
guy.
there's some great. I mean, Basil Gogos, who we just lost last year, was a great art. All those monsters of the famous Monsters of Filmland, magazine covers was his work.
We have a Lee Karloff in the chat with us.
I was just saying he was giving me grief about my pronunciation of Vlad Tepes.
Oh, he was the one.
Tepes. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't know Romanian at all. I do the best that I can.
Yeah.
Since I'm starting to slur my words anyway in English, don't give me any grief about my Romanian.
All right. Tom Spiegel is back in the house, so I think we can go ahead and get started. If someone else, if you guys are all ready too, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, those who are watching the first time or come across a replay for the first time, I will count down. I'll say 3, 2, 1, play, and when I say the word play, that's when we all hit the button. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, play.
And if you don't mind me getting the first comment out,
Please do.
it's this opening. It almost gives me goosebumps because I love this idea of a movie literally being an extrapolation of the theater environment.
Mhm.
The idea that someone would come out through the curtain, address the audience to introduce the movie.
Well,
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
Universal was so famous for marketing their films as this ultimate terror. The strong of heart may even faint at the sight of our
Right.
monster and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Horrify you. Of course, if anybody is up on the Fan Man's Friday Night Frights, he often uses a version of this.
Oh yeah.
Slightly edited.
But that's a great setting because again, we just need to put ourselves in the mindset of people seeing this back in the day. They weren't desensitized as we are when it comes to horror and stuff like that. This was terrifying to them. This was new to seeing that on the big screen. They didn't have screens everywhere. So like Troy said, that the man coming out of the screen, well, they knew it was a screen, obviously.
Sure.
But they also, it set sort of a precedent of where is the line between this is just a movie or this is real, and that a great little psychological trick before you tell us like this.
Yeah.
From the novel by Mrs. Percy B. Shelley.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm seriously considering sometime this month maybe doing a matinee rewatch of the movie Gothic, the history behind where this movie came from.
Yeah, that is a great film too. Absolutely.
If
if it worked out for my schedule, I would totally join you for that one.
What are Saturday afternoons usually like for you?
I do go to mass at about 5, but maybe before then. Oh no, we'll talk about it. That'd be good. I'd love to do that.
Sure.
Owen Lister for $4.99. Thank you, sir. Said, which Frankenstein movie had the most comic book style plot? Of the Universal ones or of any Frankenstein movie, period?
Keep in mind that a lot of these Frankenstein movies did get the comic book treatment too.
That's true. True.
So I would almost have to say all of them based on that.
Maybe Ghost. I would say Ghost of Frankenstein. You think out of these ones, or what do you think?
I was kind of thinking Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Oh,
because
okay,
you have your classic crossover, and
true.
One of them frozen in ice,
and I'm almost positive that Marvel, covered that. Yeah.
Now I want to call attention to Dwight Fry there, our Fritz character. So a lot of people think Igor. After watching Young Frankenstein, they think Igor was the sidekick in the first Frankenstein. No, it's Fritz, and played wonderfully by Dwight Fry. Igor is a much cunning and evil, but Fritz is Dwight Fry at his best here, doing that sort of creepy sidekick henchman thing.
Of course, he's just come off doing Renfield.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they did the sound for that. They actually had a microphone in the coffin to catch the dirt and rock hitting.
That makes much sense.
Yeah.
And I can't say the word Dwight Fry without a call out to my fellow Alice Cooper fans. Ballad of Dwight Fry. Off of the Hallowed Be My Name album, I think. The band. Third album.
So, of course, anyone that's into the history behind this and whatnot, remember Mary Shelley wrote this at a time when the idea of robbing graves for scientific research purposes was incredibly common. And, a lot of people made a lot of money doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Long before we were worried about zombies and viruses and stuff like that, that was the original scientific advancement that was controversial, stealing bodies from medical students. And there's a great springboard to Age of Boomer's super chat. Thank you, Age of Boomer, for $5. Says this movie was very controversial for the time. I think it was the first time audiences saw a hanging body in a movie. Very cool. Yeah. So the movie itself was also controversial as the book was in its time.
Yeah.
So was this a pre-code?
A dummy, of course. It's a dummy, of course, and it shows up later.
Al, is this a pre-code?
I think it is a pre-code.
Ah, okay. So it could be controversial, but they could get away with it because they had no criteria.
Matanui, Igor came from Son of Frankenstein. Bela Lugosi played a character called Igor. Very much a Fritz-like character, but far more devious and cunning and evil. Definitely, I recommend you look up Son of Frankenstein. Just on YouTube, look up Igor clips. You'll see Bela Lugosi does an amazing... He had been hung once, but he survived the hanging. So he's got this like crooked neck with this weird bone jutting thing. It's really creepy.
Which, of course, leads to the storyline that he wants his brain put into a monster's body.
Exactly.
And if I've seen videos about this, they try to track whose brain has the body at any given time, and it's a noodle scrambler. It gets kind of messy.
Yeah.
Literally, it gets kind of messy.
And this also gets into the whole, if you were hung as a criminal, you weren't necessarily deserving of a Christian burial.
Mm-hmm.
So that the history behind that plays into this as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is that they come across this body that's hanging after they already got one that they dug up, and someone's like, I don't have this one in my collection. Let's get this one too.
Yeah. Yep. Well, he wants the best part from each.
I can't say you never know when you might need a spare part.
Make the poor hunchback climb the gallows.
Well, that's why he's there, right? He's the hired muscle.
Now, what's his name? The actor for Dr. Frankenstein now?
Colin Clive.
Colin Clive. I was going to say Clive something, but Clive was in there. Colin Clive.
Mm-hmm. I love the fact that he just said the brain is useless because the neck was snapped. It would destroy the brain stem. Mm-hmm. So it's like they really thought through the science of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. For the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, unless you're talking about the books, that I read the book once, it was pretty good, but I didn't agree with the philosophy behind it. The whole environment is what made the monster evil, not his choices. Never agree with it. There is more of an element of that in the book, but the book does. He says, the monster says, within me is great love and great hate. And if I cannot satisfy the one, I will appease the other. So you do have evil in him, but it is more of a cultural kind of thing too. So yeah.
Well, I would be very careful about making that assumption based on what I consider to be what do you call it? An unreliable narrator.
Yeah,
the monster is speaking about himself,
mm-hmm.
and he's justifying himself. Mm-hmm. Don't take him at face value.
Exactly. Yeah.
You feel sympathy because of the things he says about himself, and then of course this movie does a great job of sympathizing the character. But you got to look at it and say, you know what? The real hero is the one that goes through all of this and still chooses goodness. Exactly. He made a choice.
Yeah.
You know.
Al wants to talk about Van Helsing.
Well, never mind then. I was just going to say the great Edward Van Sloan, who is also Van Helsing.
Now, of course, I'm looking at the brain that the doctor or professor had on the table. I'm like, is that an Abby Normal brain?
Yeah, I know. I always think of that every time I watch this Abby Normal.
No, I was letting you do that, Al, because I couldn't remember the actor's name.
Yeah, Edward Van Sloan.
It is funny how for these monster movies, a lot of the actors did just kind of play over, you know. So you got Dwight Fry, Edward Van Sloan. Oh.
And why did you take the lid? Yeah, but I mean, why did he take the lid off of the normal brain? That didn't make any sense.
True.
He took the lid off, walks away, drops it, and then picks up the Abby Normal brain.
Yep.
Abby something, sir. Abby Normal? You brought me an Abby Normal brain.
And that rewatch is on your channel next month, right, Al?
Yes, it is. Halloween night, in fact.
Halloween night. Love that room. Oh my gosh, look at that.
I know. May Clark, who was very famous for having a grapefruit stuffed in her face by Jimmy Cagney.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
What was that movie?
Public Enemy.
Public Enemy, that's right. Spider Rule says screwing up and taking the abnormal brain is probably what differentiates this version of the monster from the book's version. Yeah, I this is a great example. These Universal monster movies are great examples of films that deviate from the source material. They're inspired by it, but they deviate and make their own thing. And it's their own valid thing that's wonderful and has just as much of an influence on culture as the books did. So it can be done, if it's done for artistic reasons and, done in its own way.
Not that Mae Clark's not a lovely woman, but in Bride of Frankenstein, Elizabeth is played by Valerie Hobson.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh.
She had a little bit more. I think she had a little bit more of screen presence. Like she emoted. You kind of felt for her more too than you did Mae Clark's rendition of the character. Although I love Mae Clark's performance when the monster's coming into her room and stuff like that later. That's a beautiful scene, shot so well.
So I wanted to call out Spidey Rule's comment. He said, screwing up and taking the abnormal brain is probably what differentiates the version of the monster from the book's version. He makes an excellent point. This idea that something was wrong with the brain is introduced in this movie. It's not something that comes from Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley, didn't say that there was anything abnormal about the brain. What was abnormal was what was happening to this constructed being in the first place. So it's a good point.
Because imagine having died and then suddenly, boom, you're alive again. That would drive anybody over the edge.
Wolf 10 Media makes the point, not to judge too harshly this idea of stealing cadavers for the purpose of scientific advancement. We have come so far because of it. I was pointing out, I'm not making that assertion. That was in the time that this was happening, it was considered to be ghoulish. In the retrospect, let's face it, to this day, we still learn from cadavers, but the ethics is you donate your body to science so that the person has given you that right. It's
in
not
fact,
stealing.
Benjamin Franklin, his home that he stayed in London when he was the ambassador to there, they had it historically preserved, and they started doing some excavation, and they found skeletons in the basement. And it was this big, and they learned that he was actually part of, being such a man of science himself, he was part of the trade to try to funnel those dead bodies to medical students to help them and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, to this day, you still purchase a cadaver to use if you're in medical school.
Yeah, it's not on screen now, but I love their shelf of skulls.
Yes.
Behind them. Yeah, I think we'll see it again.
You're talking about cadavers, like that's a lot of dead people.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. I mean, it's probably not done on purpose, but it's a nice sort of meta comment that we just talked about how this movie takes the original source material and kind of tells its own story. So now you have that rival for her love interest is Victor, and Dr. Frankenstein is now Henry Frankenstein.
Yes.
In this. So it was Victor in the book, of course. So they do that conscious switch around with the names just to kind of almost show that this is a different doctor. Which
also happens in the movie The Bride with Sting and Jennifer Beal. They change the name Victor is the name chosen by the creature.
I've never seen that.
Oh, very good, but very different take on the whole story.
Love that iconic castle. Beautiful.
Yeah. And the name of the creature, which I think at one point used in the film, but it was cut, is Adam.
In the original novel, the creature says, "I ought to have been thy Adam."
All right.
Referring to himself as Adam and Victor being like God, because he refers to himself as this is how God must have felt.
Shelley was drawing heavy parallels between that book and Paradise Lost from Milton.
Absolutely. I mean, the subtitle was The Modern Prometheus.
Yeah.
And one of the first uses of the castle thunder sound effect.
Mm.
Leo Size has a comment that you could probably answer better than I could there, Troy, because I haven't seen much of the Hammer stuff yet.
Oh, sure. If you'd like to answer, do you think Hammer Chris Lee was closer to Stoker's Dracula than the classic one with Bella? You know, I'm sorry, I haven't seen, although I have all of the Hammer films on DVD, I haven't watched it in so long. I would have to rewatch it. I'll do that, and I'll get back to you about that.
We are watching Curse of Frankenstein, the first Frankenstein Hammer film, this Friday on Fan Man's channel.
Yeah, he changed his schedule to correlate those when we can, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, Al, about that question? Is the Hammer one more
I have
closer to the book?
not seen it.
Okay, you haven't seen it either.
I haven't seen it. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll get back to you, Leo.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Spidey Rules. What'd you say to that?
I said the abnormal brain, the final touch.
She's really looking forward to that young Frank or that young Frankenstein rewatch. Excuse me, guys, I got to step away.
Sure. Spidey Rules says, I know that both this and The Bride are based on the book, but I know this Bride felt closer to the book's time period. You're right. Bride even increased that uncanny displacement of what time period are we in. This one, other than the castles, all the styles and the medical student facility there, it's very much kind of the 30s almost or something, but Bride takes it more seriously in that sort of uncanny time displacement.
And of course, got to give a little shout out to Kenneth Strickfaden, who created the electronic effects.
Oh, okay.
And one of them was an original Tesla coil that had been created by Tesla himself.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Neat.
And all this same equipment that would show up in Young Frankenstein had been stored away.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Mel Brooks got the exact equipment that was used in this film.
Now, look at these walls of the castle, the slants, the exaggerated, the shadows. This is German Expressionism. It's straight out of German Expressionism, which, of course, went on to influence film noir. But long before that, you wouldn't have these Universal monster movies. Like, look at that. That's like, go look up the Gollum or Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or something like that. That's just right out of the German Expressionism. It's gorgeous.
I like his little cane.
Yeah. Walking so fast, like, what good does it do?
He stops, pulls sock up.
Well, if you've ever had your shoe eat your sock, you know how uncomfortable that is.
True. So you got that, again, it's a typical or common story about the man's work coming in between him and what could have been a happy life, what could be a normal life he could lead. So she represents that for him, but he chooses his obsession, his work, rather than that. That's the tragedy of it. That's the tragedy of Dr. Frankenstein. The creature has his own tragedy, of course. But...
somebody a time code. If anybody's looking for a time code, I'm at 1855.
And it always gets me. It's like, okay, y'all decided to come out on a really stormy, wet, ooky night, and now you're demanding to be let in. It's like, you chose to come out in this weather.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep in mind that there was a time when hospitality was an expectation. I mean, you open your doors to neighbors in need.
Yeah.
We've kind of lost track of that.
The classic pose of Frankenstein. You see that shot a lot.
Yes.
Crazy am I?
So I know this is a bit of trivia that probably everyone in the stream already knows, but this idea of reanimating the dead through electricity, there was a magic property that was inferred upon electricity when it was
Yeah.
first being discovered, and the Mary Shelley had seen that experiment where, and I forget who it was that did it, would take frogs and jolt the muscles with
Mhm.
electricity to make them jump.
Mm-hmm.
That made them look like they were being reanimated. That's where
Yeah.
that all comes from.
Yeah. And you know, once you give yourself over to the book and to Victor Frankenstein in the book's thoughts and reasoning as to how this might work, it doesn't make any logical. It's not realistic, obviously, but there is sort of a, like, you can kind of follow his thinking in terms of suspension of disbelief for the book, you know?
Not to mention the whole idea of passing a current through the brain, that whole the shock therapy, electroconvulsive therapy.
Yes, yeah.
You know, that was in vogue at the time that Mary Shelley was writing as well.
Mhm. I'll have to see if I can find it. I'll definitely find it before we watch Bride of Frankenstein. So we're watching this one kind of early in the season because I wanted to get the 3 most iconic Universal monsters as close to Halloween as possible. But I also wanted to do both Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. So we'll watch Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, and the Wolfman all pretty much in those last weeks, right up going to Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do get to Bride, there's a amazing music video somebody cut together, scenes from Bride, I think, and it was Inagata Davida. That's the song they play, and they cut it together so beautifully with all the scenes from the climax of the film.
Owen Lister asks if I would consider Frankenstein to be early steampunk.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure if I would be that specific about it, but I would say that it certainly lays the groundwork, and it sure does play strongly into modern steampunk. Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in this scene, you get his reasoning for in the movie, and it's pretty good, pretty well done. Sorry, was somebody going to speak before I jumped into that?
Paladin Demo is pointing out, as far as electricity goes, the nervous system, the heart, muscular system. Yes, electricity is very important in the way the body works.
Sure, yeah.
And now you'll see that the whole concept of AI is starting to play on that too. There's nothing new under the sun.
Well, that's kind of the principle behind acupuncture too. I mean, I know you got all the sort of mystical, the chi and all that kind of stuff, but it's basically the electricity through the body that they're trying to manipulate.
If you can interrupt, and it's true, if you can interrupt a nervous impulse, it's exactly the way, for example, a spinal tap works. If you can interrupt the message between where the pain is happening in the brain, there is no pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God, I love all that.
And
like fiddly boots going around.
Al, maybe you can answer this question for me, because movies, this was still in the studio system. So today, if we were watching this movie, if it was made today, we would credit the art director or the set designer for all of these wonderful aesthetics. But back in the day in the studio system, is this just more James Whale himself? All this wonderful design. I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen this kind of mad scientist iconic in the castle. I mean, there's so much about this scene right here that influences monster culture throughout the years after it.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. You mean like about the art design and the whole overall look?
Yeah,
I'm sure Whale had a lot to say about it.
Sure, well, any director would, yeah.
Yeah, but the cinematography has also played a lot. That was Bernard. No, that was Arthur Edison.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I love these classics, the original Universal classics, because they just had such an effect. See, growing up, my mother used to babysit a bunch of kids. So I grew up, she was like, there's always a bunch of kids around, because that was kind of what she did for a living at that time. And she would always do like Halloween parties and stuff like that for all of us and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I remember the wonderful Halloween decorations that always harkened back to the Universal. So they were like in color, or they were artistically done, but they always tried to invoke the universal.
an iconic scene.
Yep.
Yeah. And is this the version? Yep. In the name of God. Now I know what it feels like to be God. This scene, this little snippet of scene, this little piece of dialogue was taken out.
Taken out for the longest time.
For a long time and recently restored.
In fact,
Because that was considered blasphemous.
in Kansas Film Board gave a list of what they wanted cut out before it was shown in the state.
Yep.
It would have cut the running time in half.
Oh my gosh!
Oh,
Seriously?
wow. Probably
Wow.
destroyed the story too.
Okay, I must say, love the hat.
Oh gosh! Yep, I can see you wearing that and smoking that pipe.
Oh yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to mention from the previous laboratory scene, you had in the background all these Jacob's ladders, these spark gaps,
Yes, good.
which is visually stunning, but has absolutely no purpose
Doesn't do
that I
anything,
can even imagine in terms of what was happening there.
But you just said their name. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Al.
But like I said, that was all Kenneth Strickfaden was creating those effects.
And the name Jacob's Ladder, of course, invokes the actual, from Jacob's
Ladder
vision
to
in the
heaven,
Old
yeah.
Testament, in which he saw angels going up and down from heaven to earth. So that bridging of the gap,
Right.
what Frankenstein wants to do.
So from a scientific standpoint, it's got no purpose, but from a metaphoric standpoint, it truly does. Owen Lister's got a what's it called?
Super chat.
That's the thing.
Oh.
Thank you, Netter.
Thanks, Annette. Yeah, thank you, Owen Lister, for the $4.99. Says Beetle Blaze is somewhat like Frankenstein. He transforms by having a heart attack and electricity shoots out of his body, a life and death thing. Interesting. He transforms by having a heart attack every time? Dang.
That just sounds painful.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I do like that pipe.
All he needs now is a smoking jacket.
Yep.
I prefer the Meerschaum calabash style because I don't want to have to hold it. I want to be able to do something while I'm smoking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I like Sherlock Holmes. Do we have
Good riddance to you.
do we have Bride of Frankenstein on the docket this season?
Yeah, that's towards the end of the
Okay.
closer to Halloween. Yeah.
I'm so glad because I love the fact that opens up with Mary Shelley and
Exactly.
and all of them.
Also played by Elsa Lanchester.
Yeah.
God, she was beautiful.
Yeah.
Married to Charles Lawton.
Was she?
Mhm.
I didn't even
Yeah.
realize.
Oh yeah.
Now, I like the juxtaposition. I talked about the German expressionism influence of these castles and stuff like that. But look at the juxtaposition between his castle, his laboratory. This is his obsession. This is his work. And look how maddening it is. It's twisted, it's slanted compared to the straight, high vaulted society rooms, of civilization, where you go. So we just went from one of those rooms to the castle.
And I honestly believe that Shelley was tapping into the themes that would later be covered by Lovecraft. The idea that when you start to touch the divine, it maddens you. This is knowledge that man was not meant to have.
Absolutely, yeah. This is interesting. His thoughts right now. What if you touch the darkness? I forget, I missed the whole line he said, but yeah, this is part of that.
I don't remember if the novel brought this out. I know that the book doesn't, or this film doesn't get into it directly, but there is an idea implied that by man creating life in a way that is separated from God, when God creates life, what does he do? He imbues the human with a spirit, with a soul. And when man creates life artificially, he doesn't have access to that.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's doing is he's creating life without a soul. What happens to that creature that you've created when it is not anchored by a soul?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but
I
think that's what Shelley intended.
Well, that plays perfectly into this scene when Dr. Frankenstein just realizes that the brain he put in was a criminal brain, not the brain, the other one he thought. And he looks concerned for a second. Then he says, well, what does it matter? It's just a piece of dead tissue.
Yes.
Because you can't imbue it with a soul. You can't put the real life into it. You can just put create a heart to beat, but you can't put the soul in.
And this is why looking at it from the point of view of modern science adds another dimension to it, because there's still speculation about, is the brain of a criminal different from the brain of anyone else? How much of criminality is choice, and how much of it is, the
Chemical.
structure of the brain, so to speak? Yeah.
So here we have the iconic introduction to the creature, Karloff's portrayal.
Yep.
I remember seeing the clips from this movie so many times in the Muppet Babies cartoon growing up. Every time they'd open a closet or something,
That's right. I know exactly what you're talking about too. That's crazy. I love his backing in too.
Yeah.
So that he can
shout
turn
out to James Pierce.
That's
Jack Pierce.
Jack Pierce. I was gonna say, yeah, a great artist, makeup artist.
He created that look. The droop, everything from the flat head to the droopy eyes to. Although you got to give credit to Karloff himself and his dental work for the sunken cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
True.
He wore a bridge, and he would take it out in order to get his cheeks to be sunk like that.
So I want to grab some of these comments here. Green Lion Girl says, I remember hearing that part of what influenced her, I believe that was Mary Shelley, her work was the death of her mother. Not only that, but there's a story that she and Percy Bysshe Shelley had been trying to have a baby, and she'd had a stillbirth.
Yeah.
And that also played into the story,
yeah.
which is an interesting parallel to Anne Rice and her influences in writing Lestat.
Now, right here, this wonderful scene where he tries to touch the light, striving for the light. It's so heartbreaking. And when I say that these Universal movies, they imbued their monsters with such pathos, this right here is just a perfect scene of what I'm talking about. Yes, he's dangerous, and we'll see that coming later, but it's not, you've got that sense of it's not his fault. It's that.
Yeah, the original version before James Whale got a hold of it, when it was still Robert Florey, the monster was just a vehicle of destruction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there was no pathos. There was no underlying empathy for him.
Well, and so James Whale, we mentioned last time with Invisible Man, James Whale himself being a closeted homosexual at the time, knew how it was like to be judged by society or culture or whatever. But Mary Shelley, she said that too. Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, her mother, was what feminism was of the day. She was a controversial writer for that. Nothing like it is today, of course, but she was a great writer. And then Mary Shelley, of course, was the one who she was living illicitly with Percy Bysshe Shelley. I mean, he had a marriage previously or something like that. I forget, but they weren't traditional in their being together at first before they were married.
Well, they were very bohemian. That's true. I'll probably talk more about that if I do The Bride.
Definitely,
or I mean, if I do.
So here's where Fritz turns out to be a butthead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, get away with the torch. What is he doing? Nope, I'm going to keep putting it in your face.
And why is the monster afraid of fire? It's that primal instinct, right? That man is overcome, but the monster hasn't.
Mm-hmm. But the monster, at first, we saw him drawn toward the light.
Mm-hmm.
Light is good, but light from fire, too much light.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mirror of knowledge and what is, Dr. Frankenstein himself reaching too high,
I also want to point out, you can see it here. Look at his shoes. He's got those real thick soles that gave him, I don't know, almost 3-4 extra inches of height.
Yeah.
Right?
I think Karloff is like 5'9". Lugosi
which is tall enough,
Yeah,
but
Lugosi's taller than Karloff. A lot
I did
Yeah.
not know that. Wow.
The reason for those shoes, though, is because that means that person was basically a street worker. They're the ones that laid the roads,
Mhm.
and because they're the stuff they use on the roads would get so hot, those thick soles kept their feet from burning.
she's right. I had
Oh.
forgotten that those actual shoes that he is actually wearing. The actor
That's
Boris
so cool.
Karloff is wearing the shoes that would be worn by a worker who worked with hot tar.
I'm
And
so
they were-
glad you brought that up, Nana.
And they were like 13 pounds
Wow.
per shoe.
Which provided part, it was
of the
integral
movement,
to the way he walked. Yeah.
Now that scene there, I love that James Whale showed us Fritz from the monster's perspective. We got that camera work of Fritz and his evil face,
Yes.
And there's the end of Fritz.
And- But what that
And-
tells us,
The same. That's the same hanging dummy from the
Okay.
beginning.
and what that shows us though, is that Fritz himself, a hunchback, somebody outcast from society, is turning on the monster. So it's like the dog eat dog, humanity, the dark side of humanity, and we've got this poor tabula rasa monster trying to navigate his way through, and he's only being shown the dark side, locked in the room with him.
So the minor point that I wanted to make is that when I got my Mego Frankenstein, I replaced the shoes that he was wearing with thicker soled Kiss boots
Oh,
order
Kiss,
to-
nice.
in order to give him that higher height,
That's cool.
so that he'd be taller than all the other Universal monster figures.
Nice. That's cool.
And I have to give credit with
Mhm.
credit's due. I only knew about the shoes because Troy put out some documentary or something about the horror films, and I remember that fact from that.
She
So I have to
remembers
give
better
credit to
than
my
I do.
husband for putting that on.
I had forgotten that fact, so I'm glad she did. It's an example of how your wife is your partner and your helper.
Or the fact I just know a lot of really weird facts.
You're awesome. Spidey Rules brings up the interesting parallel between Frankenstein's monster and the golem of folklore.
Yes.
In fact, if you're an enthusiast of Dungeons and Dragons, the Frankenstein monster creature in the game is called a flesh golem.
Mm-hmm. And if you look up, I just talked about German Expressionism, the German Expressionist film called The Golem.
Yep.
You'll see
Yeah.
where they took a lot from not just the architecture in the castle, but a lot from the creature himself.
Yep.
From that directly.
Boom.
Poor thing.
How many times did Boris Karloff play the monster?
1, 2, 3 times, 4 if you count when he wore it in the 60s for an episode of Sunset Strip,
Right.
or something, 66, something like that. Okay,
Didn't-
wait, might have been 4 times.
Didn't Glenn Strange play the monster more than Karloff in the end?
I think they tied.
They tied. Okay, yeah.
I think they're
Of course, it
tied.
was really cool. And I think it was either House of Frankenstein or Dracula, where you had Karloff playing the Mad Doctor. Instead.
I think it's
I
House-
thought that
House
was a
of
great
Frankenstein.
casting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, House
Yeah.
of Frankenstein.
Okay, so it's on this DVD set.
Yeah. Let me see. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein.
Ghost of Frankenstein.
Wolf
And
10
there's
Media, the
4 times, yeah,
streaming
4
can be
times.
very hard to listen to, very chilling. I'm glad you bring that up because we've become, I think, as a modern audience, we've become desensitized to that. We have to consider, as Professor said earlier in the viewing, what the viewing experience for the audience was like when this was released back in 31.
Mhm,
They weren't used to that kind of thing. Something like a Scream could be horrifying to a viewing audience back then.
Oh, yeah. And I think the pathos is what made it even more horrifying for audiences at the time, because it's one thing just to see an evil monster, an evil character that you're supposed to be scared of that's coming for you. Well, that's tense, that's suspenseful, that's all of that. But to see a monster himself who is being tortured, well, that's a whole other level of, disgust and discomfort in you. But you're also afraid of the thing too. It really was just a powerhouse of emotions for these audiences.
Yeah.
He is a interesting old man.
Yeah. See what's up
I
these
would
awful
say
stairs.
he's a curmudgeon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's a-
No banisters or anything else.
Well, it's a castle, so
But again, that juxtaposition between the civilized home that we saw the Baron in and then the castle lab of Henry here.
There is, I don't know. I don't want to say archetype, but there is a very traditional connection between the old castle and lightning storms, I think.
Mhm.
Because you just made me think of Highlander,
Mhm.
and the fight in the castle and the lightning striking and so forth.
And of course, this book was originally written when Shelley, Byron, Polidori, and Mary Shelley were all in that. I don't know if it was it might have been a castle in Switzerland, I think.
It was a summer home, but
yeah, it's
yeah,
like a chateau.
a chateau, yeah.
But it was during a thunderstorm that they all decided to try and write a ghost story together,
Mhm.
or separately, and
During
compare
the
them.
year without a summer, because
Yeah.
was it Krakatoa had erupted, and the summer was very, very cold because of the lack of sunlight.
Yeah.
Very miserable year, from a weather standpoint.
There's a wonderful, I think Al's probably even shared it on Iconic Universal Monsters, but some of those behind the scenes photos of Karloff in the chair with his cup of coffee in his hand and stuff like that, while Jack Pierce is putting all the makeup on it.
Not a cup of coffee, a cup of proper English tea.
Oh, proper English tea. Sorry.
Karloff was very English, as was Colin Clive. And that's actually why James Whale wanted to work with them and why Colin Clive got the job.
Mhm.
Because he liked the same type of personality
Mhm.
and he liked the British. And so that's kind of why he kept working with the same people.
Colin Clive, didn't he have some, he was really dealing with alcoholism, and he was kind of having a rough time with these, more so Bride than this one, but it started during this one, I think.
He had a real kind of a bad life, very much a victim of alcoholism, and died very young.
Oh.
I mean, he died in 1937.
That's creepy. That hand coming up behind him. Great use of dramatic irony for tension, for suspense, for the crowd.
Spidey Rules says, I looked it up and I realized it was Glenn Strange who played the monster in Abbott and Costello.
Yeah.
Meet
Yes,
Frankenstein.
yes.
I always assumed it was Karloff. And see, that's the funny thing, right? Because it's almost like people assume that Karloff always played the monster, even though he was played by so many different actors.
Yeah.
But
And Glenn
they always
Strange did a wonderful job, but he really based his performance on Karloff's.
Yeah, and everybody always tried to bring something to it. But the funniest thing is when Karloff passed away, there was one newspaper that ran an obituary but used a picture of Glenn Strange's.
Oh no.
I also read somewhere that Karloff really was a nice guy.
He really
wasn't.
was.
He was not. He was not a monster by any means. He just played a creature, and it hurt his heart that sometimes children were afraid of him because they associated him with the monster.
Yeah. And he loved the monster. He loved the character of the monster. He called it something like that dear old fellow or something like that.
Yeah.
He really had a special place in his heart for the monster.
And his daughter, I forget her first name, but she's still is she still doing it?
Sarah
Still goes around and tells stories about him and shows off or sells pictures and stuff like that. She was at Chiller Theater Con too when I was there before training.
If I can make an analogy, Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz, was very keenly aware of her, her character's impact on children.
Mhm.
So she went out of her way to meet children and help them to see, I just played a character. I'm an actress.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not a bad person. And the famous portrayal of that was her appearing on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood as
Oh, yeah.
herself and saying, I'm now going to put on my makeup so you can see I was the Wicked Witch of the West. And Fred Rogers saying, she's not a bad person. She's just an actress. She's just playing a role.
My favorite appearance of her, though, was on Paul Lynde's Halloween special with Kiss. The great Paul Lynde, anyway.
I have a download of that.
I have a DVD of it. Yeah.
I love that as a kid. Of course, you focused on Kiss. I focus on Margaret Hamilton, but there you go.
Well, I just remember that great joke. As soon as Margaret Hamilton introduces him to Kiss, she's, these are my friends, Ace Frehley, and this and that, and she introduces them all, and then Paul Lynde, classic cheesy joke, says, "Oh, I get how you came up with your name. You were in a fight as kids, and your mom said, 'Hey, kiss and make up.'" And no one laughed.
Yeah. I remember that joke. That's terrible.
Great Paul Lynde. So here we get a little bit of the village and a little bit more of the time period, stuff with the wedding festival.
And one thing, I don't know if a sound engraver would appreciate it, that band playing is the first piece of music since the opening titles.
Really? Okay, yeah.
This film has no soundtrack, no proper soundtrack.
No score, anyway.
Score.
That's why Sound Engraver hasn't been commenting. She doesn't care. There's no soundtrack. I'm joking, Sound Engraver. I'm just playing around.
I think she said she was taking a break from the Universal. She'll be back after October.
She's still in the chat, though.
Is she?
She was in the chat earlier.
She's still
I know she was there earlier.
She's letting it play because she's being a supportive member of the community.
Oh, of course. Yeah, she's good like that.
It's like I had to turn off my YouTube because it was making my computer drag. So I'm just have StreamYard open in the movie, and that's it.
I don't know if anyone knows this.
Look at this scene here. Go ahead. This handheld camera taking us through the village, taking us, putting us there, and then it juxtaposed to the cut with the monster shakily walking through. So it's a great sense of tension between the two.
And this was before they actually did a lot of this Steadicam type work. So you make an excellent point. I did want to.
Oh,
go ahead, Al.
Now I wanted to say the story of little Maria here. There's a played by Marilyn Harris. They thought that she might be a little scared to work with Boris Karloff in full makeup. Mm-hmm. But when she saw him, she ran right up to him. She's like, "Can I ride in the car with you?" And he's like, "Oh, thank you, my dear." And he was just so sweet about it.
Oh,
it was,
that's
a
cute.
wonderful little relationship there.
I did want to say to the community, just like Sound Engraver's doing, I still do this from time to time. I will just, even when I go to bed or when I'm not actually watching YouTube, I'll put on play all on the professor's channel just to give him some algorithm bennies. So
thank you very much.
If you want to support the community, it's always a good idea to do that for your favorite YouTubers.
Very true. Thank you. I appreciate that. Now that handheld cam that kind of closes in a little bit gives you a sense of instability.
It's overdone now, but back then that was a fairly new concept.
Yeah. More from the German Expressionism, I think, too, School of Filmmaking.
It's funny that you're right. It was German Expressionism, but there's a certain realism in it too.
Yeah, definitely.
Seeing it from a point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're coming up to another scene that was edited out for a very, very long time.
Because was edited out. The when he threw it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He throws around. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is very humanizing of the creature.
Mm-hmm. And this, of course. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were
But what it does is it shows a great heart for the creature, and yet a terribly tragic misunderstanding of the way things work.
Yeah. Well, pretty thing in the water. I like throwing things in the water. Yay!
Yeah. Doesn't mean anything.
I don't float.
They had to do that several times, and Marilyn, the little girl, was not the best swimmer.
Oh no!
And but she was a trooper, and they did it one last time, and that's the shot they used.
Oh wow!
And think about it. This was probably also this was when you watched a movie back then, you saw it the one time you saw it in the theater. So if you didn't understand it, you didn't get a lot of time to think about it.
True.
The whole idea here was the creature ran out of flowers, and in his simple mind, he thought, I am supposed to throw beautiful things into the water. That's where they belong.
Yeah.
The little girl is like a flower. I'm going to throw her into the water, not understanding.
She'll float too.
Yeah, that she would drown.
Yeah.
Well, he floats now.
We all float down here.
Oh God.
Well, bring up the It convert. That's just made me think too. These remember during It, when we read the book, all of these classic movies would be replayed in the theater. So that was the 30s, and then all the way up to the 50s or early 60s. These movies still retain their shock and their profound effect on people decades afterwards.
She's beautiful in her wedding dress. I will say that.
It's a beautiful dress. Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's an important plot point that I think is far better portrayed in the book. This is Victor's wedding night, or he's getting married, and the creature, the fact that the movie Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein are two separate movies loses the fact that those two story elements were part of the same novel. And the creature struggled with the fact that he's alone, and the creature comes to the realization, just as God did when he created the garden, that it's not good for man to be alone. He wanted a companion. So he said, look, you've created me a monster, so give me at least a companion, and we'll go away and never bother you again. But if you don't do this thing for me, I will be there on your wedding night.
Yeah.
And I kind of almost feel like, yes, although that element is clearly implied, it's lost when the creature doesn't actually say it himself and make that threat.
Yeah.
Well, he sort of talks. I mean, he talks a little bit in Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, he starts talking in that one. That was the big deal for audiences.
But the big mouthpiece in that one is Pretorius.
Yes, Pretorius, great character.
Yeah, I love him.
It's my only vice.
I love his little homunculi.
Yeah, the little king trying to get into the queen's.
Yeah,
sure. We'll get to that.
Stay here. Locks her in.
So now, instead of locking the other women in the room with the bride, he lets them just be out and unprotected. It's like, dude.
Well, okay, but think about it. He doesn't care about them. He's trying to protect his bride. Unfortunately, that's exactly the wrong thing to do. She needs to be protected. You're right.
Yeah. Notice though, right now, going up the steps and stuff, how this house starts to take on some aspects of the castle. Look at that stairwell in the back and the rooms that are jostling through. Not her room, of course, but that's creepy.
And those slanted ceilings and walls and whatnot, very much that impressionistic stylization, right?
Yeah. I just love this scene. It's so you got the beauty and the purity of the bride and all of her white, and then this grim, dark monster. We know what he's capable of, and that reaction right there. And he doesn't like her screaming. Stop that.
I know, but the way he went, "Arr," like, oh.
You do it.
Wow. Wow.
And that right there, that is just tragic. That are terrifying. The slaying across, the laying across the bed like that.
Mhm.
Which is very evocative of that that famous portrait, right? You
Henry
expect to see a
Fuseli's The Nightmare.
homunculus sitting on her chest, right?
Yeah. It was a succubus or incubus rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor. Oh my gosh, man. Watching this as a father,
Right?
guys, oh my god.
Look at the guy's face is perfect.
I know.
I feel like this is a very similar. I suspect that this was intentional when they did Star Trek II, when Scotty brings in his nephew, the very
Oh.
same way. I'm sure that was intentional.
But amidst all the joy and the revelry,
Yeah. And this, we have the whole, the crowd with pitchforks, right?
Mhm.
This is where it starts.
Yeah.
This is
seeing
what
seeing all the villagers dressed like that, I want a big thing of beer.
And sausage.
Yeah, and a big sausage.
Oktoberfest, right?
Well, it's like, but how does the father know that the little girl was harmed by the monster or whatever?
Well, there's a scene that was cut out where it was witnessed and he shot at the creature. And unfortunately, that was excised from the film.
Yeah. It's a shame that when a scenes were cut back then in the editing and process, they were just thrown away. They were never saved for extra features, or they didn't even know what that was.
The only reason some of these scenes were saved was because in other countries they held on to those versions. Very, very similar to why some scenes and some episodes of Doctor Who still exist.
Mm-hmm. Arcade Burns, yeah, I agree that scene is big time. It's so disturbing.
All those riding pants he's wearing.
Are they called jumpers?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
Jodipers, yeah.
Like that.
I create him with these hands, and with these hands, I'll destroy him. Now, there's another story element here. You set these. So, on the one hand, you set these events in motion. You did this. It's your problem. You have to go fix it. But he's allowing the same primal drives that drove him to create the beast, the creature, his obsession, his disregard for consequences, leaving consequences out of the picture. That's what drove him to create the monster. Now he's using that same kind of emotion, revenge. No, I must. It's up to me to kill him rather than take responsibility for, teach, nurture, so forth,
I agree with you, but temper that with the fact that and I don't know how clear it was in the movie, but in the book, his turning away from the creature was turning away from his responsibility.
Exactly.
And now he's been shocked into realizing I screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to take responsibility now.
But his responsibility is to kill it, not to,
Well, because it's too late now, right? It's too late for him to go back and be, a good father. Now he's got to go back and tap into the same responsibility of giving life. Now I got to take it away.
Yeah, maybe it's just me as an optimist or whatever, but I like to think he still could have.
I don't disagree with you. I think you are right from a human standpoint, but I'm trying to look at it from the author's point of view. I think that's what she was trying to get at, or what was intended. And I think the director here is tapping into the same spirit, so to speak. And
anybody notice when the Burgermeister was talking how much the Burgermeister looks like Burgermeister Meisterburger from
Santa Claus is coming
Santa
to
Claus
town.
coming
Oh
to town.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder if he was kind of like a little bit of an inspiration for it.
Al,
Probably.
wasn't he voiced by Boris Karloff?
No, that was the Grinch.
Yeah, the Grinch.
Oh, and the Easter Story with Iron Tail. He was also voiced by
Mhm.
Boris Karloff. Okay, sorry, made a mistake there.
And those, I'm still working on the Christmas Tuesday night classics for maybe a little bit in November and December, and toying with the idea of the Grinch, the original animated. We'll definitely do Shop Around the Corner, Wonderful Life, stuff like that. The original Scrooge, original Miracle on 34th Street.
Well, now you say original Scrooge. That's not exactly the original, but the best.
The best. The Andrew Minter, is that the director? They all are similar.
The 1951 one.
Yeah. Now it's interesting that we end right where we began with the hillsides. That was where the graveyards were. It's a different setting here, but still we're outside. We're on this craggy landscape, very different from the architectures we've been seeing.
And although I know this wasn't intentional, I love the fact that this natural setting in quotes is actually on a soundstage and artificial, which totally fits the Frankenstein.
Because you can actually see some of the wrinkles in the
Yes, I noticed
backdrop.
that. Yeah.
You can
How the
also
demo-
have a little bit of an echo from the soundstage.
Oh, uh-huh.
Oh, she's right. Absolutely.
See, there's some of the wrinkles again.
Christmas starts November 1st. I'm concerned, Paladin demo.
I dig it. I'm with you.
Or at
on
least
that.
Advent.
You know what? Since we started, the Halloween season a month early, why not start the Christmas season a month early? I'm with you
Yeah.
because I
Advent
dig
and
the holiday season.
Exactly.
And can I just say that the Professor Geek community is really what's going to get me through this holiday season, because this has been a rough 2020.
Oh, yeah. For a lot of people, too, I think, but I definitely hear you. Well, it is a great community. Love you guys showing up and hanging out with us.
Mhm.
Now, great moment here. The two. And again, Karloff's, he's not speaking in anything, but his expressions. And to be able to emote like that through that makeup is just, and this wonderful scene going back and forth in their expressions there.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of your fire no more.
And this is that wonderful Paradise Lost moment, though it's not vocalized in the film, but as it was in the book, did I ask you to form me from, did I ask to be created and so forth?
Yeah.
Karloff smash.
Yeah, there is a lot of the original Frankenstein's monster that went into the whole thing and different portrayals of him.
Did you notice that he actually fell over the torch, and that
I saw
was
that.
real.
Yeah.
That was real, and
Wow.
he realized, oh, this is a problem, and kicked it away before it caught fire.
And the windmill scene. Now, the idea of a windmill, of course, we needed a practical building of wood that could burn. So a windmill or a barn or something work. But making it a windmill, I think, is interesting because it's driven by a natural force. That wind churning. It's also a little bit reminiscent of the gears and the electrical devices that gave him life are now at play in a different context here and bringing about his quote unquote death. Spidey Rule says it's not surprising since Stan Lee and Jack Kirby partially based Hulk on Frankenstein monster. Yeah. Clearly the writers of the 70s TV series knew that. Yeah. As I think even Joss Whedon and such with the Avengers movies and stuff like that before they got all ridiculous in Endgame.
In context, Spidey Rules is referring back to, he had mentioned the parallel between the little girl at the lake and a scene in The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, okay.
That was directly inspired by that. Yeah.
Cool.
What's interesting is earlier they were showing Frankenstein's monster putting him on the ground, and you could see like the light from the window, but there was like flame showing. They're on the third floor. There are still flames.
Good point.
You can see it now.
So again, the gears here, the internal mechanism of the windmill juxtaposing the original.
And just a little thing, the set design of the windmill was inspired by a building in Los Angeles that housed a local bakery, Van de Kamp, which displayed a large windmill as its corporate logo.
Huh.
Interesting. And I don't know if you mentioned this previously, Professor, but the fact that a windmill, what is a windmill? It's harnessing nature to
exactly natural force.
Yeah.
It's like, you want to get down, you're down now.
That's brilliant. Being caught on the blade of the windmill.
Mm-hmm.
And the monster's up there like, oh crap.
Yep. Up there without a hostage now.
Yeah, and in the original version, he was supposed to have died.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think he does die, as far as you know, in this movie.
Yeah.
That's just the sequels. They keep bringing him back and stuff.
No, I'm talking about Henry.
Oh, Henry. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Henry was supposed to have died from the fall.
Oh, okay.
But they changed their mind at the last minute.
And this idea that in the sequels you have descendants and whatnot. I'm not sure where those descendants come from, since, his wife died on their wedding night. I'm not clear on that.
No, his wife didn't die.
No, she's recovering. Yeah.
You're right. I'm thinking of the novel.
They had a son, Wolf, who was son of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Right.
That is really heart-wrenching. The poor monster suffering too.
Yeah.
So
dying what terrifies him the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fire, and now he can't escape it.
Yep.
Or at least that we know of.
And the wheel's still turning though, slowly. Yeah. That's just disturbing.
And that's a horrible way to die too.
Oh yeah, burning. And he's on the floor there. There's no smoke inhalation. That's full burn.
I need a big mansion with a lot of female maids.
No, you absolutely don't, Al. That would be a bad thing.
I think you'd just be happy with the female maids, Al.
Yeah. Right. It's sherry for medicinal purposes.
And by the time they did this, Colin Clive wasn't able to film this additional scene. That's not him laying on the bed.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh. Colin Clive doesn't need that.
No.
Why wasn't he able to film this last scene?
Well, they added it at the last minute because, like I said, he was supposed to have died. But they added it. I think he was doing another project at the time when they got around to doing that.
Why did they decide to change it to make him stay alive at the end?
Studio pressure. They needed it to be a happy ending, or less tragic,
Or maybe they had already thought about doing a
sequel.
Additional sequel, yeah. Sequel.
I think James Whale did, if I'm remembering correctly, he had his eye on, or he wanted to do The Bride even while making this one. I think, I might be totally misremembering, but that's in my head for some reason.
What I like is here it says a good cast worth repeating and lists everyone.
Yeah.
Right, because these were all listed at the beginning.
Universal decided for a happy ending. Conclave was in England, so a stand-in was used for the far shot of him recuperating in his bed with his fiancée at his side.
Gotcha. Well, there we have it, folks. Frankenstein, 1931, the classic, epic, iconic movie. And we will get to Bride of Frankenstein in October here, but that's just awesome. I forgot what's coming up next week. I did the whole schedule and then forgot about it. Do you know what's coming up? Or you did the calendar, Troy. Do you remember? Or I can go look.
I don't, but I'll look. That's what I'm here for. Give me a second.
All right.
And he's ready to drop his links.
I am getting ready to drop my links. Absolutely. Professor Geek.
We thought that was funny last night. We were listening to Sound Engraver, and she's like, this is coming up, and this is coming up, and I'm not sure about this. And
I'm like, read the comments.
And they're going,
read the comments. I'm dropping them.
Troy's dropping all the links in. Just look at the comments.
Well, I'm lucky. I've always got somebody here to help me remember all that, but she was all by herself trying to remember this one and this day and this day.
That's true. So next week you have, next week, Tuesday is Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Ooh,
Creature from the Black Lagoon. Good. Very cool.
Coolness.
Yeah.
1954.
Great film. Great. Really getting at that sort of primal monster, nature and everything like that. So that's gonna be great to watch.
Classic Beauty and the Beast trope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great Beauty and the Beast moments there.
With the lovely late Julie Adams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really innovative underwater camera work. It went through a bunch of cameras, as I remember or understand. Just making that.
Oh yeah, they did a lot of very interesting things for that film.
Cool. And looks like Matchstick says Weeb Watch is getting in the Halloween spirit there. They've got Helsing Ultimate Eps 1 and 2 for the Weeb Watch this Sunday. Cool.
That's absolutely right. I'll be dropping the link for that in just a second.
Arcade Burns says in a few days, Professor Geek will be playing the Universal Monster movie pinball machines. That would be that'd be cool. Are you saying you will? Or are you thinking I will? They I love anything Universal Monster movie related. So any any kitschy little thing or whatever that has the images and stuff like that. It's just so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I do have
go
ahead.
I have a pinball package app on my Kindle, and one of them is the Creature from the Black Lagoon pinball machine. And
okay, cool.
It's a lot of fun. You play it on the Kindle though.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, and these movies, they tend to sometimes Walmart or Target or whatever, they'll put together some really neat packaging for these films every Halloween. Like I got really cool packaging of Hitchcock's Psycho and the Birds, in a really cool little package. And they've done different ones for the Dracula, the Universal monsters and stuff like that. And,
I do have to say, I appreciate when they put together, multiple films on one disc, because you don't need a whole DVD for some of these movies. So to put together two movies on one disc, they take up less room on your shelf,
like those little things, like 50 films in this package, like 6 discs,
or even like I have the first 4 films in the Final Destination series, and they only take up 2 discs, but they only take up as much space as one disc on your shelf.
You do have to be careful though, because sometimes they'll try to get the cheaper quality copies where the sound isn't as good, or they'll get the ones that have been formatted for a TV screen or whatever, and you don't get the full picture and stuff. So
that is true. Yeah. Usually those are the older films that are in public domain, so they don't have to be a high quality. They just whatever version they want.
Yeah.
And that's where you have like 100 movies on, just a couple of discs. It's terrible.
Yeah. Leo plus size. It is. They're short. Go ahead, Annette.
Rodimus Prime 19 was saying, do the whole Frankenstein series. It runs through the Who Universal Monsterverse.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, I just picked. I wanted to get as many Universal monsters in this time around as possible, since we're doing that for these classics. But I highly recommend Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein.
I can say you got all the classics. I mean, all the main the main star, monster premiere ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's really really great. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully a lot of people looks like watched it along with us, which is great. Mr. Matchstick says, now I want some Count Chocula. I think you meet some Frankenberry.
Frankenberry, that's right.
And then there's Booberry.
Booberry. And what was the werewolf one? They did a werewolf. Fruit Brute. That's right, yeah. They'll be coming back in the store soon. I'm definitely going to.
I think they already are.
Are they really?
I saw them last time we were in the grocery store. Yeah.
Yeah. They had Frankenberry, Count Chocula, and Booberry.
Nice. I need to go get them tomorrow.
There's some great art with Frankenberry and Count Chocula, but they use the images of Karloff and Lugosi.
Oh, cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll have to find it. I've got them somewhere.
I prefer the flavor of Count Chocula too, Matchstick, but all those are so great. I always try to get some each Halloween. I'm not really a cereal eater anymore, but I have to go back to it.
Well, it's chocolate. You can't go wrong with chocolate.
True.
Exactly.
I went through a Blueberry phase when I was a kid.
You can't keep in prime tip-top shape like the Pruff is by eating sugary cereal all the time, though, folks. Just putting it out there. Wow, dead silence.
Nobody disagreed with you, did they?
Not even enough to laugh at.
Well, I was going to say, is that why you're so sweet?
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Nanette. Oh, so we've got, this is Tuesday, nothing tomorrow. Thursday, there'll be another Second Cup Cafe on Fan Man's channel. And then Thursday night, we will definitely come back for the book study this time. I know it was canceled last week because of things going on, but we will be back for that tonight. And in the Facebook group, I'll try to bump that post up to the top again, which shows you the moment we're stopping at in Dune. But pick up that, and hopefully I'll be able to prep for a nice writing lesson pre-show for that as well. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy is dropping links to all of this.
Yes, I am.
Cool. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Troy.
Course.
Definitely good. And then Friday Night Frights on the Fan Man's channel with The Curse of Frankenstein, which is the first Hammer horror Frankenstein film. So we watched the first Universal one. Then you can go and juxtapose it with the first Hammer horror one.
With the iconic duo of Christopher Lee as the monster and Peter Cushing as Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah. Wolftown Media is talking about the Mary Shelley, the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein. That's a good film. It has its own deviations, but I really do enjoy that.
It's pretty good right up till the end. It kind of blows it at the end, I think. But
it's got a lot of good stuff. And Helena Bonham Carter is a wonderful creature, our Bride of Frankenstein there too. Really, really wonderful. So that's Friday. Saturday
night.
Not much is going on Saturday, so don't worry about that one.
Prof, I do co-host that show, so you're doing it to me too.
That's true.
And me.
Always have to throw that out. Go ahead, Al. What's going on the glorious Saturday?
Saturday night on my channel, Big Al Presents. We're doing a rewatch of the classic Big Trouble in Little China, John Carpenter directed film with Kurt Russell.
And I got a little bit of a sneak peek at Al's Avatar. It's going to be good, folks. Got to tune in for that. If nothing else.
It's the first installment of Ha Ha Halloween.
Ha Ha Halloween. There you go.
Yes, I will say Al Pan will make an appearance.
Al Pan, nice.
Indeed.
And Wolftown Media, are you doing a Weeb Watch on Saturday earlier, a little bit, or later, or same time, or something? I forget. Wolftown Media does something on Saturday nights, I believe, usually. And then, of course, Sunday, you've got a couple options.
I was going to say, Wolftown Media promised me that once he gets himself on a regular schedule, he'd let me know so I can get it added to the what do you call it, schedule.
Cool, yeah. And then Sunday, both the study hall with Aja Boomer and Troy Pacelli, as well as Matchstick's Weeb Watch. So great options there as well. And then, of course, back to Monday with Sound Engraver and her Monday Night Muse. Don't know what she's going to talk about, but it's always a good talk and good information. Great time in the chat there. And then back to Tuesday for Creature of the Black Lagoon. I'm gonna turn it over to you guys to vamp a bit while I go get that Rick Frayne book because I do want to show that before we end. So I'll be back.
Well, the one thing that I did want to share, the additional thing, is if you really enjoyed tonight and you're really thinking about all the sequels to the different Universal monsters, I am going to drop a link to my Facebook group, Fixing the Universal Monsters Shared Universe. I created a Facebook group where we could all kind of get together and imagine how we would, if the Universal monsters were to be rebooted the way they've been trying to for over a decade, what would be a good way to do that? And this season, I'm really hyped about it, and I'm starting to do a lot of postings about how I think there were some false starts that I think had a great deal of promise that were kind of missed opportunities. I wish they had done. Starting with the Brandon Fraser remake of The Mummy.
Yeah, that's the one they should have used.
They could have built it off of that, and I would even say the what's it called, the who was it that redid the Wolfman? Oh, you know who I mean.
Benicio del Toro.
Del Toro, yeah, exactly. That was a great I would put that right up there with the Brandon Fraser Mummy as far as remakes go. They could have really worked that into a blended universe, and they really failed us on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, no matter how flawed, at least they kept the original feel.
Yeah,
of the films.
Now,
Yeah.
Paladin Belmo said the 2017 Mummy is hilarious. Yeah, it was.
I honestly never even saw it. It was not even worth it to me. It's
bad.
I even think there was some value to Dracula Untold. As bad as that was, and as much as I wanted to love it, there was a great intent that I think they failed a great deal on, and I talk about that a lot in the Fixing the Universal Monsters Shared Universe.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna show some of the Rick Frayne art here. I'm trying to pick out the ones that are safe to show, because sometimes it gets a little racy. Not like, pornographic or anything, but he likes to do the cheesecake pinup thing with some of the monster women and stuff. But
yeah, the bride. I have seen many a Bride of Frankenstein looking a little too sexy.
Yep. But he does wonderful art. Like, so here's let's see if I can keep my fingers to mark the ones I want to show. That's let me make myself bigger there, just for the sake of showing this. This is Boris Karloff there. I think that's from Black Cat, maybe.
I think you're right, Black Cat.
Yeah, Black Cat. And then he does wonderful images of the actual monsters as well. So this is his Karloff in monster makeup. Beautiful art. I mean, look at that.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah,
Peter Cushing there as well.
I've used that before. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Let me show you a few more. And Rick Frayne, it's RICFRANE is his name, so you can look him up. This is his Fly, as well as the Bride, Elsa Lanchester there.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful stuff. Really great art. I recommend. He's a great guy too. Like I said, now this is Igor. This is Bela Lugosi as Igor that we were talking about, with the neck there and everything.
Yeah, fantastic performance. Really is.
Yeah. Another one is Boris there. And I do want to show, this is Vampira, or with Zachary. Is it Zachary the Ghoul? Is that what his name was? Or it is the horror host.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. And I think, was there one more I was going to show? It's just, these are really great. I just want to show a couple more. The whole book's here of wonderful art. So I'm not like, showing all of his goods here. But this is from The Time Machine, the Morlocks.
Oh yeah.
As well as another Karloff there. So really great artist, really skilled, and pick up his book. You can get him to sign it. I'd show you where he signed it, but it's on the title page, which is apparently a bit racy as well. His wife models for him for all these racy photos. Woo! But
and it's FRANE.
Yeah, RIC Rick, and then Frayne FRANE. He even have his website. Yeah, rickfrayne.com. RICFRANE.com is the website. At least it was at the time that I bought this book. That was years ago. But yeah, really great monster art there. So so we did the schedule. I'm sure you guys were talking. Anything else you guys wanted to say, or any more comments to make about the movie or anything?
Well, I just want to remind everyone that, if you haven't already subscribed to us, to please do so. It does help our algorithms too when you like and subscribe and all that. And like, I'm trying to get my channel off the ground, and Troy is and all that. And I mean, I know the Prof and Al are like so established, so they don't need it. But
well, actually, Al still needs to get monetized, so let's make sure that you guys are all subscribing to Al.
Yeah, exactly. And but also, like, Age of Boomer, Mr. Matchstick, and all that. I mean, we're all just trying to get our channels going. So please, like, subscribe. Look at past videos or whatever that we might have on there, and give us thumbs ups to help us out. And I promise I will have actual content on my channel soon. I just need to figure out how to edit, which is something Trey hasn't taught me yet. So as soon as I do that, I'll be able to put up a couple of videos.
Yep.
I want to remind people too that a lot of you guys, those who we mentioned that when we did the shout outs, who are doing a lot of live streaming on your channel, that's great. And of course, as we usually say, which bears saying again, that it does take that original content, video wise, to grow a channel. But one way to do it is like I do. You cut out bits and pieces from your live stream that you think would work well. So even if you're only doing rewatches, if you made a really cool point at this one part, or you think the conversation at this one part of the rewatch was really good, cut that out, put it out as a video, even if you want different parts of it or edit together. That's one way to do it, especially for some people who are just starting out and they're a little nervous about sitting in front of a camera or mic or just recording themselves talking. That's one way to break into it a bit, is to cut out bits of a live stream that are more digestible for an audience. So
Green Lion Girl says that she's going to try and live stream until dawn. By all means, if you plan that out, let us know so that we can
that's a long time.
Promote it on the group, and I'd be happy to be there and follow.
So now, Green Lion Girl, do you already have a YouTube channel, or are you about to create one?
Definitely message me. I'll post it in the Professor Geek. In fact, that's something I need to do. I need to, with all these files of schedules that I keep posting, I need to post a directory of all the affiliated channels of the Professor Geek network. The
Professor Geek family.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Because so many of us now are starting our own channels, and it's actually, I think it's all due to the Prof, because he kind of inspired us to branch out and start doing our own channels. So it's like, if you've got a YouTube channel, please let Troy know so he can put it on his directory, and then we can have it on the Professor Geek page of, hey, here's all of our YouTube channels. And, then we can like and subscribe and what have you for all of us to help us all out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
and when you can't do a super chat, and you can't afford to spend a little money on the prof, just make sure you're commenting like crazy, because I know that these comments on his channel are actually making a huge difference. That engagement makes a difference.
They do. They tell the algorithm of YouTube to recommend more of your videos to people. So like when one video gets hot, and there's a lot of comments going on, I'll notice that I'll get a lot of new comments on older videos, and that's because the algorithm's been tripped to where YouTube is recommending my older videos than to other people. So, so yeah, it helps. It helps tremendously. Thanks for doing that.
And don't be afraid to troll the trolls. When they're coming in and they're making snide comments about the professor. Come to his defense, because all that does is get them to respond again and keep the algorithm building.
Eduardo, go ahead.
Sorry, Green Lion Girl says that she does have a channel, but it's still small. That doesn't matter. Let Troy know what your channel is, so we can find you and subscribe to you.
Absolutely.
You've been one of the community for a while. Yeah, we'd love to do that. I made my dad joke there, but Troy was talking, so I don't think if I caught it when Green Lion was girl. I was going to stream until dawn. I was like, that's a long time.
I honestly thought the same thing, and I wasn't joking. I was like, wow, an all-night stream, that could be fun. Oh, she means the film. Okay.
And speaking of gaming streams, I will be streaming at the end of the month, like right around the 1st of October or whatever. I'm going to have some time where I'm going to stream. I've done it a little bit before, but I want to try and get through the whole game, and I want to stream through the entire Knights of the Old Republic game, because a lot of people who are Star Wars fans know that's such a crucial part of the EU story, but they're just not gamers themselves, so they won't actually go and do that. So I do want to stream through it and show people the story, because it's epic. It's so good. So I'll try and do that relatively quickly around that time. That's the plan anyway. We'll see how that works out. So.
Yeah, we've kind of been missing your gaming streams, Prof. That's
watching.
Yeah, I mean, there's no wall chicken.
No wall chicken in our life. We need wall chicken in our life.
He's been busy.
I know he's been busy, but
school, like I said, university is all online now. My school went to online for a time, they say. We'll see what happens next month, but I can't imagine them going back in classroom. Now, I love being in classroom. I love teaching my students face-to-face, but online doesn't bother me at all. In fact, online is actually less work for you when you teach multiple sections of the same class. You record your lecture once and post it 3 times rather than having to give it 3 times.
Yeah,
you know?
That's true. That's true.
So.
Plus, I imagine, it can't all be work in YouTube. You must have some other life outside of that.
Okay. Yeah. Matanui said wall chicken. It's like, it's kind of a inside joke.
Go back and check out his older game streams. It became a thing because he was playing Castlevania.
Yeah, so they made me play Castlevania for the first time, the original, and it's such a painful game.
Like, it was so much fun to watch, though.
What? My hardware? What? I need more wall chicken.
Agent Boomer, don't bring up his Castlevania playing. That was funny. No, we're definitely going to bring it up.
That was hilarious.
At that game, and that's why it was fun.
Where's my wall chicken?
I'll have to go back and cut out some of the highlights and put that together as just a comedy video short.
Absolutely. That would definitely be worth it.
I will. Cool. Yeah. Okay. Arcade Burns says, I got started here with Professor Geek video games. Let's play. But KOTOR is a long game. Can't see this done in one. No, I wouldn't do it in one long play. No, I meant like over a few days, maybe like consecutively or something. So I don't know. We'll see. All right. So I think that's it. Unless you guys have anything else you want to say. That's enough. All right. Agent Boomer.
Wish everyone.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was go ahead.
Wasn't anything important. Really wasn't. Go ahead.
I just put his comment on the screen. I was just giving Agent Boomer that vocal. I'm done. We want to hear what Nina has to say.
Oh, I was just going to say, if we're all saying goodbye, I wanted to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you again for joining us. We do really appreciate you all being here. I mean, you're our biggest fans, and we just super appreciate that, because without you, well, we wouldn't have a channel.
She says fans, but I say friends. Thank you.
And family.
Yep.
And family. That's true. Love you all.
I like minions, but Owl Pals will do.
Oh, minions.
I want to be a minion.
All right. Well, all right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll be doing it again. You hear all the great content coming this week, so lots of things to do, lots of ways to hang out with us. I have not updated my PO box yet, Arcade Burns, but could still feasibly send it to the old one. It should still forward, but I will let you know. Mid-month, I think I should be having the new one, so I'll let you guys know. But I appreciate that definitely. But all right. So until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the stories you love. Thanks for watching.
Unpleasant dreams.
Nice.